Hey, what's up, nerds? Welcome to Radio Free Hammer Hall. We are, this evening, going to be taking a look at Malign Sorcery, the endless spells, going through each and every one of them, having a little conversation. I am Paul, your always gracious host, and I am accompanied by our good friend Daka Dez.
Cheers. My water.
Yeah, I know. I'm not drinking tonight. I am. I gotta be awake for this one.
Yep.
Yeah, this one is special.
Yeah, this is cool. Endless spells.
Yeah. So, just looking at Twitter real quick to retweet to the appropriate places that we're live. And it doesn't appear to be coming up yet, but that's okay. So anyway, we want to quickly go over what how the endless spells work and what they do in general. You want to go over that, or you want me to go over that real quick?
Go for it.
All right. So speaking of it from the match play perspective, you pay points to have these spells in your list. Each of your wizards knows the spell and can cast it. You can have one instance of each spell on the table at a time per player. So you can't, put like 5 purple suns in your list. You can only have one. So they are basically cast like an ordinary spell. Your opponent can unbind them like an ordinary spell. Instead of them just having an immediate effect and going away like a spell typically would, they're represented by a physical model on the table. Each one has a War Scroll card that tells you about what they do, how they get set up, where they get set up. Some of them can move, do various different things. On a later turn, your opponent can use one of their casting attempts to dispel that endless spell if it's within range. The unbind of an endless spell is measured to the wizard, but the dispelling of an endless spell once it's on the table is measured to where the physical spell model is located on the table. So you may not be able to unbind something if you're out of range when it's initially cast, but then you can later on dispel it. The endless spells that move are called predatory endless spells, and they move at the beginning of each battle round before either player's turn it begins. And the movement is traded back and forth between players, beginning first with the player that will be going second in the battle round. So if there's more than one endless spell on the table, the player going second in the battle round chooses an endless spell, makes its move, and then it would go back over to the other player to move an endless spell of their choice, and so on until you're out of endless spells. The interesting note that they added into the FAQ is that that particular instance of things happening with endless spells when they are moving at the beginning of a turn, or I'm sorry, at the beginning of a battle round, that is outside of a normal turn. So that is not going to count towards your battle shock for the turn. It's not going to count towards other like wound counts or damage counts for other abilities, etc. So that's it kind of think of it as like this sub-turn outside of the normal turn sequence in the game. So I think that's pretty basically everything. Right now we have the Malign Sorcery box that has our first 13 endless spells, plus the Bale when Vortex has been made into an endless spell, and with the Night Haunt and Stormcast releases, they are also getting some faction-specific endless spells. So we can probably expect more of those in the future. But that's what we got for now. You think I missed anything?
No, I'm excited to see what MoonClan gets, to see if we get the Foot of Gork.
Yeah, I mean, I would be really pumped to see like an actual model of a giant foot. Like that would be fun to paint. Although like there's already a Foot of Gork spell.
That's true. Yeah, that's what I was kind of wondering if maybe they'll redo the whole.
Yeah.
Redo the Iron Jaws, but they might do it.
Yeah. Is there a Hand of Gork spell? Does anybody have that?
Be the Hand of Mork, I believe. The Foot of
Hand of Mork.
Yep. So maybe we'll bring back the Fist of Mork.
Yeah. I remember when I first started playing Warhammer. My friend that got me into the game was playing Orcs and Goblins at the time in 8th edition, and he just loved like casting Hand of Gork and like throwing a unit of like 40 black orcs across the table into a weird place. But I digress. So anyway, let me see if Twitter has finally had that thing appear so I can retweet it into my other feed. And it doesn't look like it's popping up. But that's okay. Because Twitter sucks. So I am going to share up my screen where I've got all of these spells here. You won't have to look at my ugly mug anymore. Share. And infinite windows. All right. So we're not going to bury the lead. We're going to go right to the Umbral spell portal because this is the one that like everybody is most excited about, most like needed an FAQ the most, the quickest. So this one is 2 models. I'm just going to read it off real quick. So the Umbral Spoil Portal has a casting value of 5 when you set it up. The first model goes wholly within 12 inches of the caster, and then the second one is wholly within 18 inches of the first model that you set up. The Arcane Passage ability, this is basically what it actually does. If a wizard successfully casts a spell while they are within 1 inch of an Umbral spell portal, the range and visibility of the spell can be measured from the other Umbral spell portal model from this endless spell.
Really good for Moon Clan.
Yeah. If a predatory endless spell finishes a move within 6 inches of an Umbral spell portal, it immediately gets removed from the battlefield and set up anywhere within 6 inches of the other side of the Umbral spell portal. And then it is empowered by Ulgu. If the battle is taking place in the realm of shadow, the second Umbral spell portal can be set up anywhere on the battlefield instead of 18 inches. Important to note here that there was an errata/FAQ on this, basically just saying that during each phase of the game, you can only use Arcane Passage once.
Yep. So
you're not just endlessly blowing all of your spells through the portal. You get to throw one through the portal.
A couple of weeks ago, that's what I did. I took a Moon Clan list with all almost every endless spell, and I lined all my shaman up around a portal and just cast it like crazy. That's playing against Arkham the Black, so it didn't really, didn't work very well, but it was fun. Yeah.
So, this is 60 points. Casting value of 5, which is very easy to achieve. And this basically extends the range of any of your spells by like 18 inches, at least, right?
Yep.
So like wildly powerful.
Yeah, even though you can only do it once, it was a little bit out of hand when you could do it, 6 times.
And people were trying to build lists around this, and people were doing abusive things around it. And I think it went from being abusively good to now it's just good.
Yep.
I think if you have, especially in certain armies where you have like a caster that you want to protect, but they have a spell that's not necessarily going to make it all the way across the board, so you don't want to like get them in the line of fire. This is really good for that.
This is really good for like the Poxbringer casting favored poxes, because they have to sit still in order to cast the spell. So I think it's really good for something like that.
Yeah, and also when you have things like Skaven and Nurgle and probably others that I'm just not aware of, like where you have like those weird casting ranges. Like a lot of Nurgle's ranges are 14 inches, which really is terrible. So I feel like throwing the Umbral Spell Portal specifically in a Nurgle list, it makes your Nurgle spells a lot more viable. Like you get one spell a turn that you get to throw like all the way across the table instead of like 14 inches in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes the Rotbringer Sorcerer actually interesting too, because his spell range is only 7 inches, but it does like a flat 3 mortal wounds on a 6. So if he's sitting next to a spell portal, it's like, a 7-inch range around that spell portal is just like a dead zone. Like he can drop mortal wounds.
So I can't even think of its name. The new Malign Portents, the goblin that came out for it, its spell is like 6-inch range. I'm trying to remember what it does off the top of my head because I just ignored it.
Fungoid Cave Shaman.
Yeah, the Fungoid Cave Shaman.
Yeah. So all of this makes all of those wizards that have a weird or short spell range actually good.
Yeah.
Which I think that's awesome. And it costs points to do it. I think it's a reasonable casting value for only being able to do it once a turn. The interesting wording here in the FAQ is that it's once per phase. So that means that you can move a predatory endless spell through it at the beginning of the battle round and then use the arcane passage again on your turn.
Yep.
So I think this one's like a 5-star, going to be in a lot of lists. Like just all around good.
Yeah, it was right off the bat good.
Yeah.
My testing of it, I think it's still good, even with the FAQ. I think it's one of those things that just got, maybe nerfed pretty hard compared to what it could do, but still, it is great.
Yeah. Yep. That's my general assessment of it too, is that like it's really good. It's just no longer broken.
Yeah, that's exactly.
like they brought it down to reasonably good. Now it's like not an auto include in every list that has a wizard.
Yep. It's funny because I don't think I would actually use it in my Nurgle list I'm brewing.
Well, you're talking about the Thricefold Befoulment list.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, you're marching 3 Great Unclean Ones across the board. You're not worried about them being in range.
Yep, and the Glockkin.
And the Glockkin. You're a bad person.
Yep.
I mean, that will also be like the most fun list to play against ever, or the worst, because you have just in the Great Unclean Ones, you have 16, 32, 48 wounds with a 4-up, 5-up save that heal every turn. And
when it and when they cast that their default spell, it heals Nurgle models and does 3d3 healing to Nurgle models and 3d3 mortal wounds to enemy models.
Yeah, that's silly.
Fun.
That's just silly.
It'd be line dancing.
Yeah. All right, so shall we move on?
Yep.
All right. Chromatic Cogs.
Oh, this is my favorite right here.
This is the other one that a lot of people have been talking about. So it is a single model. It gets summoned on a 7, and it costs 60 points. You set it up within 12 inches of the caster. In the controlling player's hero phase, a wizard within 9 inches of the model can manipulate the cogs to increase or decrease the flow of time. They may do this in the same phase that the cogs are set up. If they do, choose one of the effects opposite. If the effect lasts until your next hero phase, or until an enemy wizard chooses to manipulate the cogs. So interestingly enough, like an enemy wizard can get in there and stuff this.
Yep.
And flip the cogs.
And get a free spell out of it too, an additional spell.
Yeah. So if you speed up time, you add 2 inches to the movement characteristic of all units on the battlefield and add 2 inches to all charge rolls for all units on the battlefield. Important to note that includes your opponent's stuff.
Yep.
All means all.
Yeah, when I used it, it worked wonderfully for my opponent. I was using those stupid orc dice, rolling 1s and 2s.
Yep. And if we slow down time, the wizard manipulating the cogs can cast 1 additional spell in this hero phase, and in addition can re-roll failed save rolls. So I am going to say that I am not that huge of a fan of this. And I know that's going to be controversial because people are like, this is like the best one. My first problem is its casting value of 7. So the only way I would stuff this in a list is if I can buff my casting.
Balewind.
What's up?
Put the Balewind out. So you put out the Balewind, getting +1 to your save, +1 to your casting. And
it's not +1 to your casting anymore. It's +1 to the number of spells you cast.
Spells. So you can gain 2 additional spells.
Yeah.
So, and if you're on, that's what I was thinking. If you're on Mystic Terrain, you can do fun stuff. And if you have ways to buff your casting, that could be fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think where do you really get the benefit from this is like, you know, those factions that have wizards that can add like +1, +2 to their casting, or Tzeentch that can just use Destiny dice to get it auto cast.
Ironjaws could have a lot of fun with this.
Yeah, I mean, that's stupid weird knob shaman can be really, really powerful.
Yep.
Yeah, he can get crazy bonuses. And then adding even more movement to Ironjaws, just like getting them to a point where like those moves and charges are like even better than they were before. Like that's really good.
I was looking at this with the thrice-fold befoulment.
Yep.
In the trees, in the bells.
Yep.
Not nice.
Yeah, and you can use the Great Unclean One's Bile Blade to get +1 to cast to knock this down to a 6, so it's a little bit more reasonable.
Yep.
Yep,
it's fun. I love it personally.
Yeah. You also need
I don't usually like stuff
fix around within 9 inches of it to continue to use it.
Yeah, that's the only drawback. You have to have a Heidi buffed up, almost throwaway wizard to make sure you have control of it still.
Yeah, yeah. Which is kind of, it's weird. It's definitely weird. Combining this with the spell portal is very interesting.
Yep.
Because now that wizard that you're hiding behind something is getting an extra spell to cast, and he's also throwing his spells across the board. So
hidden away. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, so I think this is good in certain lists, but I think personally, I think less attractive than the Umbral Spell Portal is.
Yeah. You can take this with Free Guild.
Yeah, I mean that would be interesting. Throwing this in a Free Guild list with a Hurricanum allied, because the Hurricanum gives you +1 to cast. Yep. So the Hurricanum can, you know, just throw it out there on a 6, and now you actually have some hustle on your troops.
Yeah, it might be. I don't know. I think it could be good in just about any list.
Yeah, I think the thing that I'm weary of is the people that are like, yeah, I'm going to use this in this like Alpha Strike list. And my whole list is going to be contingent on casting this spell on a 7.
Yep.
And not getting unbound. Like,
Yeah,
that is a shaky game plan, my friend.
Yeah, the 30-inch unbind is nice. It's a lot of fun. My game last Wednesday, I kept meeting every spell casting attempt that my opponent did until the last round. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Just making it. It's fun. Wizards work from anywhere now.
Yeah. The magic phase is really a phase again.
Yep.
So what do we got next? The Bale Vortex, which we've already touched on. So this changed completely from what it was previously. It is 40 points, I think. 40? So 40 points. It goes off on a 6. And you can only put a wizard on top of it with a wounds characteristic of 8 or less.
It's 9 or less, and I'm a little disappointed I can't put the Screaming Bell on it.
Yeah, or if the unit of 2 or more models. So I wonder if that actually would. I'd have to look at the wording if that prevents the Gaunt Summoner with familiars from jumping on the Bale Vortex, or if they're all considered one model. Anyway, if successfully cast, the wizard goes up on top of the vortex. And let's see. As long as the Bale Vortex remains on the battlefield, the caster and the Bale Vortex are treated as a single model from the caster's army that uses the caster's War Scroll as well as the Endless Spell rules. So that's a major change from the previous incarnation of the Bale Vortex. It no longer makes your dudes that are on the Bale Vortex just straight up immune to combat.
Yeah.
Like, you can just run up and punch them now. Let's see. Going down here, just a lot of text, but the big thing that this does, it adds 1 to the save roll of the wizard that's on top. So it's basically still giving them cover. However, it doesn't say cover. It's add 1 to the save roll. So your Deepkin wizard that's on top of there will still be able to also get their cover bonus. And you get to cast an additional spell each hero phase, and you add 6 inches to the range of spells that are cast. So instead of doubling and getting +1 to cast, now you cast an additional spell, and you get an additional 6 inches.
You can't cast through the Umbral spell portal if you're on it.
You can't?
You have to be within 1 inch.
Yes, but the Bale Vortex and the caster are treated as a single model once it's summoned. So you can still use the Umbral spell portal.
Damn, I cheated myself.
Yep.
That's true. Yeah, I see. Oops, overlooked it.
Yeah, this one has an annoying amount of text, let me tell you.
Yeah, that's easy to miss.
Yep. And there's not anything in here about, like, there used to be in the old version of this, like, what happens if, like, you can't place it because there's other friendly models in the way.
Yeah.
It's only talking about enemy models, which is interesting. So I wonder if this is kind of requiring you to be able to fit it there.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
You know what the wacky thing with this too is, because it's being considered one model, you're still going to get a Lookout Sir roll or Lookout Sir modifier while you're on top of the stupid Bale Wind Vortex.
Yeah, treat it as a single model.
Yeah. So yeah, add that to the long list of things that have no sense in terms of verisimilitude with the Lookout Sir rule, but
And you stack that with rerolling saves and the Chromatic Cogs, an extra spell there.
Yeah. So, obviously, this is nowhere near as powerful as it was in its old incarnation. I feel like it's still decent, though.
Oh, I think it's great.
Especially at 40 points.
Yep. Nope. Easy to take that one.
Yeah, and the casting value at 6 is reasonable. Like, that's attainable.
Get to that Mystic Woods.
Yeah.
The Arcane or whatever it is.
Yeah, Arcane. It's still just like the most like bent terrain rule, and it just still bothers me. Like,
it's really, yeah. I had my little shamans parked in a tower that was Arcane. Yep. Just sat there the whole game.
Yeah, I mean, if you look through like all of the artifacts throughout all of the books and all of the realms and all of that, like there is a very distinct reason that there is almost nothing that buffs your casting.
Yep.
Because buffing your casting is really good, and it's just a random thing a terrain feature can do for free. And I don't know. I don't like it, but that's a different video. We're talking about Bale Wind Vortex and endless spells. So, in what situations do you think you would take this? You know what I just realized? We've been going this whole time, and I don't think I locked on myself.
Oh.
Now we're locked on me. Okay. Rookie move. So what do you think? Like, where would you take this, do you think?
I don't think there's, well, besides the thrice-fold defilement, I don't think there's a list where it isn't a good ad. Especially like I had a Goblin Shamans on it, and they're having a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think at 40 points, it's pointed in such a way that there's going to be a lot of lists that are like, I've got a wizard in my list, and I've got an extra 40 points and nothing else to do with it. I'll take a Bale Wind Vortex.
Yeah, and with all the realms having their own spells,
yeah,
why wouldn't you want to take that extra spell?
Yep. So I think it is. I'm not sure that this is like a build around sort of endless spell, but I think it's going to end up in a lot of lists as a point filler.
Yeah, I would take it almost every time if I had casters. I think almost every time.
Yeah, it's definitely good.
Is there anything in this War Scroll that says there's nothing that says that you can't put it on an objective? On the War Scroll here.
There is nothing that says you can't put it on an objective, but you can also just run into melee against the wizard on top now.
Yeah.
So that really changes that equation considerably.
Well, unless you put an Arch Warlock on top of it and then surround it with Clan Rats for the -1 to look out, sir, in terrain on an objective. Could be tough.
Yeah.
Could be really tough.
It would be. It would be really unfortunate. All right. So the Soul Snare Shackles. I really like these.
Yep.
So they cast on a 5. When successfully cast, you set up one of them wholly within 12 inches of the caster. Then the second and third wholly within 6 inches of the first one. So it's 3 models. And at the start of the movement phase, roll a die for each unit within 6 inches. of any of the models. On a 3+, have the movement characteristic of the unit until the end of that phase. On a 6, the unit also suffers D3 mortal wounds. And then if you are in the realm of death, you increase that to, or you increase the placement range of the shackles to 9 inches from 6.
I love this for board control because people are gonna. It's like deadly terrain. People are gonna see it and probably try and avoid it. And you've got wonderful board control there.
Yeah, it's a really nice spell to kind of zone off a big piece of the board, like in one area, and just be a hindrance to your opponent getting through it. Half movement sucks. Like that is like not good for a lot of armies.
Especially if you already have terrible movement.
Yeah, exactly. Also, this is only 20 points.
Mm-hmm. It is a bargain. You almost always have 20 points left over.
Yeah. So I like this in general, especially in armies, I would say, that may have speed issues. You can just handicap your opponent in the same way that you're handicapped. It's great for gunline armies. You can kind of get your opponent stuck and let them just get shot up. So this would be great for a KO list that's allying in a wizard from Stormcast. Throw the shackles out there and stop your opponent from getting across the field into your gun line.
Like fish in a barrel. Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of thinking this would be good in something with like an elite model list too. Let's like you're bringing a lot of Blade Kings. You throw these down, then your opponent's going to be funneled right into the Blade Kings or right into your evocators or however you pronounce them from Stormcast. You can funnel them right into the meat murder machines. Yep. Fun.
Yep. I mean, I think for any army that is, doing like a big beefy deep strike or ambush sort of maneuver, just using Nurgle as an example. If you're bringing a big unit of Blight Kings on the board with Gutrot Spume, like I would throw the Shackles like on the other end of the board.
Yep.
So you have one side of the board that's tied up with the Blight Kings. Then the other end of the board, they're hindered by the Shackles, and you can kind of just shimmy the rest of your slow-moving army up the board.
Shimmy, yeah. Yep. Croaknado. Asteroid TV. Croaknado, or what's left of it. Yeah, they nerfed the old Croaknado.
Oh, yeah. Croaknado is no longer a thing.
Yep.
In all ways. I haven't really looked at Croak now, but from the level of nerf, it's like, do you even ever take Croak anymore?
Yeah, I know it was pretty. Yeah, I haven't compared and contrast. I'll be honest with you. The first 2 weeks was just kind of learning general stuff, but I knew there was going to be an FAQ and everybody was doing this crazy stuff, and I just didn't pay too much.
Yeah. I knew that there were just such shenanigans going on that there was going to be an FAQ, and I was reluctant to do anything like this until the FAQ came, because everything you said was going to have an asterisk after it if it was ridiculous. And I'd rather have something more concrete to work with.
Especially before I start painting and building and.
Oh yeah, I was like, I am not buying any models until I find out what the real rules are.
Yep, that's it.
All right, so definitely digging the Soul Snare Shackles.
100%.
Yeah, they are a very nice defensive piece. And kind of creates dangerous terrain, which is nice.
Yep.
The Prismatic Palisade casts on a 5, gets wholly set up within 18 inches of the caster. At the start of each turn, roll a die for each unit within 6 inches. On a 5-up, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by that unit until end of turn. Models cannot see another model if you draw an imaginary 1 millimeter line from the center of the base to the center of the base. It blocks line of sight.
Yep.
To simplify what that says, it blocks line of sight. And then it's empowered by Heish. So you add 1 to the rolls to determine if a unit's affected by the blinding light ability. This one, I guess, is interesting.
It's interesting. I don't know. I looked at it a few times and thought it over, and maybe I'll find some interest for it later. But right now, it's kind of a pass for me.
Yeah. It's 30 points. It's not doing any damage.
Yep.
This is interesting if you're really concerned about like your guys getting shot up.
Yeah.
If you need to bunker a bunch of stuff.
It's a pretty big model too.
Yeah, I mean, it's really wide. So, I mean, I think an interesting play with this would be to cast a Umbral spell portal and then throw this in front of your wizard.
Yep.
To protect them from, because it's blocking line of sight, not just from shooting, but from spells. So you can then use the spell portal and hit your opponent, and then you're like, no, boo boo, you can't hit me.
Yep.
But I mean, this is paying points to do a thing that's the same thing as hiding behind a building. So I'm not sure it's going to be, and I don't think this whole like subtract 1 from hit rolls is really that powerful because it's only on a 5-up.
Yeah.
So
maybe. Yeah.
I mean, this is going to be an interesting thing to screw with your opponents. But I don't know that this is necessarily that powerful. But again, it is a piece of terrain that's also going to get in the way.
Yeah.
So this is doing more than blocking line of sight because it's fairly tall. So you're also blocking your opponent's movement. So in that sense, this may be useful depending on the kind of board that you're playing on. Especially if you think about something like the Ideneth Deepkin, they can use their ships to really like block off areas, and then you can use a Prismatic Palisade to extend that blockage. So you can really use this to control the board a lot.
With more of the Shackles too. Interesting.
Yeah. This and the Shackles and that, and in just same sort of deal with Nurgle, putting down the Feculent Gnarl Maws. Those have a much bigger disrupting effect on the battlefield than people realize, I think. Like, those things can really get in the way.
In your own way.
Yeah. Yep. They have gotten in my own way before, that is for sure. So I think this one is like, it goes in the category of like niche uses, but I don't think it's useless. I don't think it'll be played enough that it like powers down shooting lists.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm not sure that 30 points is the right number for this either. I think 20 probably would have been more adequate. But again, like that ability to throw it up and have it be manipulating lanes is
really make a funnel. If you have an all-flying army, Ideneth Deepkin army.
Yep. Yeah, so I think there's definitely armies that can make very good use of this. Or if you have like I don't know, like if you have like a really strong anvil unit and you use this and other things on the board to funnel your opponent's units towards your anvil to just get them stuck.
Yep.
You can use it to block off objectives. Like that I think is an interesting possibility to do with this, because that's something I do often with my Feculent Gnarl Maws, is that like it would say like 3 places of power. I will drop my Feculent Gnarl Maw on like right next to the objective.
Yep.
So that my opponent has an obstacle to get to it.
And then he get hurt by it when he gets there too.
Yep. So I think in that sense it's useful. So you know, using this as an objective blocker could also be useful.
Yeah,
we have to think about this in terms of more than just like running across the field and killing your opponent.
Yeah.
This is just literally a big wall that gets in the way. And if you are playing for more defense than killing your opponent, you throw this up in front of an objective to protect the objective that might be otherwise a little bit weakly defended. So yeah, the more I'm thinking about this, the more I actually like this endless spell. But
as a blocking piece of terrain, I like it way better.
Oh yeah, I mean, like forget the text, forget this whole thing about subtracting from hit rolls. That doesn't exist.
Yep.
It blocks line of sight, and it's a big movement blocking piece of terrain that you get to drop on the battlefield wherever you want to on a casting value of 5. That's pretty good.
Blocking it out, yeah, it's pretty good.
So yeah, I mean, again, it's like a niche use, I think, but I think it's good.
No, yeah, you're right. I've totally changed my mind on it. I like it.
Like, yeah, I'm gonna throw up this wall. I can deal with it. All right. So this is the other one that got an FAQ.
Oh, wait a second. We had a question from Asteroid TV. He was wondering if the Soul Snare Shackles still work in the retreat phase. They just go off in the movement phase. Start of the movement phase. Doesn't matter if you're moving or not.
Well, let's see how it's worded. You have the move characteristic. So if you are retreating, it would half your retreat as well. But it would have it's having the move characteristic, so it would not impact your run if you are running while retreating. And it's also not affecting your charges going through it. All right, the Geminids of Ulgish.
This is another book to read.
What?
This is another book to read. A lot of text.
Yeah. Well, it's because it's really 2-in-1.
Yeah.
And I like this a lot. So basically the FAQ on this just says that, this particular endless spell is 2 models, and you can't use both of the effects from the 2 different models on the same enemy unit. It has cross streams. Yeah, you can't cross the streams. So it has a casting value of 7. You set up both models within 6 inches of each other and within 18 inches of the caster. One is light, one is shadow. It's a predatory spell that moves 8 inches and can fly. When you move it, it has to finish the move with both of the models within 6 inches of each other. And then it's dispelled if for some reason that's impossible. When the model is set up, the player can immediately make a move with it. So after it has moved, each unit that has any models it has passed across suffers D3 mortal wounds. Let me just say that again. Any unit that it moved across suffers D3 mortal wounds. So you can fly these over multiple units.
Yep.
In addition, subtract 1 from the attacks characteristic of melee weapons used by each unit that it passed across.
That's how you make Iron Jaws cry, right there.
Yep. After it has moved, each unit that has any models that have passed across silver D3 mortal wounds. In addition, subtract 1 from hit rolls. So one of them is subtracting 1 from attacks characteristics. The other one is subtracting 1 from hit rolls. If you are battling in Heish, you can re-roll your dice for mortal wounds. And the same thing if you are in Olgu, but only for the, like one is for the light one and one is for the shadow one. So yeah, these are ridiculous. These are also 40 points.
So you like these ones?
I feel like either, like if this was one model and not two, if this was like two separate endless spells that were each 40 points, people would still take them.
Yeah.
It is one of the more powerful damage dealers, and it's also really like powerfully debuffing your opponent.
The debuffs are where it's at, I think, with these.
Yeah. I mean, the debuffs are brutal.
Really?
So, I mean, I think this ends up in a lot of lists. The casting value of 7 is going to deter it from being in like every list.
Yeah.
-1
to hit. That's pretty. It hurts.
Yeah. I mean, I think the so here's the downside of this one, right? Like I've played Plague Touch Warband enough to know how much it sucks for your opponent to get -1 to hit.
And you stack her with this.
And like this, I feel like this particular spell, it is very good in a competitive light, but this is a super feel bad. Like this is just not feel good for your opponent. I like it. I will likely play with this in tournaments. I don't think I would bring this to a friendly game.
No. No, it's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty mean.
These are not fun or friendly things to do to your opponent's kids. Like this is not how you make friends.
Iron Jaws would be put on the sad face.
Yeah.
Fire Slayers. I mean, even it's even -1 to hit for shooting, so it doesn't matter if it's shooting or melee. The attacks characteristic is only for melee weapons, down to a minimum of 1, but the light count.
Yeah, and a lot of shooting attacks will just be crippled by -1 to hit, and then stacking that with like, look out, sir, -2 to hit. Great.
Back to the Bale Vortex on the Mystic Terrain.
Yeah.
Warlock on top and surrounded by clan rats.
Yep. You are determined to make Skaven good.
I am. I always am.
And I don't disagree with that sentiment at all. I would love Skaven to show better than they do in tournaments. And I think part of it is like a certain extent of players not trying. Like, I just don't see Skaven even show up that much.
No, yeah, it's because I guess they're sort of an older army now. But yeah, you're right. I think Skaven. I think I've shown that Skaven can be really good. In this new edition, I need to figure out. My main thing when I'm playing is I want to control the flow of the game. So I want to drop fast. But I think I have to sort of change my mindset and think about things and see if I can do a lot of drops but still make it work. You know what I mean?
Yep. I'm curious to see where the metagame goes in terms of drops, because a lot of like the 1-drop battalions are not viable anymore or are totally gone.
Or you can't put enough models into the battalions now.
Yeah.
Like those little Stormcast ones, you can't. can't put, throw your entire army into it anymore. So you're still doing multiple drops. It's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah, I feel like what they did to the Stormcast battalions is like the pendulum swinging too far in the opposite direction.
Yeah. Yeah, because yeah.
All right, so the next one is the Emerald Life Swarm. This one, for some reason that I do not understand, is 60 points.
They're garbage. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that before you said what it is.
Yeah, no, like this is a mistake. So it has casting value of 6. Set up wholly within 15 inches of the caster. It's predatory. It moves 10 inches and can fly. After it's set up or after it has moved, pick one unit within 1 inch of it. You can either heal D3 wounds that have been allocated to that unit, or if new wounds are currently allocated to that unit, you may return a number of slain models to it that have combined wound characteristic equal to or less than the roll of a D3. And if you are in the realm of life, the D3 turns into a D6.
Hot garbage.
This is not worth 60 points.
Nope.
Because here's what's going to happen. You're going to cast this. You're going to heal some stuff. Then you're going to go to the next battle round, and your opponent's going to move it. It's going to be nowhere near any of your stuff.
Yep. And
then you're going to move your stuff next to it to hopefully heal. And then your opponent's going to move it away again.
Yep. It's like D3, 1 unit D3. If it did multiple units.
And it's 1 inch.
1 inch. That's terrible.
Yeah. I mean, this is like. I mean, this is basically what the Taliban of Nurgle does. Except without requiring a model that your opponent can potentially move to be next to your units.
This is the green garbage swarm.
Yeah. So, sorry, guys. This one was a miss. Big time. This is possibly the worst one.
Yeah. Definite easy whiff.
Yeah. Like, I want this to be good, but the fact that it's just going to sit there most of the time and, like, not do anything because it's 1 inch. Like, if it was, like, 6 inches or something like that, then it would, like...
Yeah, that'd be, maybe. I don't even think I would take this at 20 points. If they put it at 20 points, I still don't think I would take that. Yeah.
I mean, even it, like, let me put it this way. If it was free, I'm not sure I would waste a spell cast on it. Like,
yep.
All right.
Just a quick note. Hi to Kevin Rand out there. And Burning Stew says, hello, Paul. You are the king nerd. A good king. And I live in nerd serfdom with the other peasants. Thank you for the weekly play you put on for us.
You are welcome, sir. I try to be the clown for everyone.
This one.
Yes.
Go. This is my favorite one, I think.
Malevolent Maelstrom. So cast on a 7. Set up at 18 inches from the caster. It is an endless spell, moves 8 inches and can fly. When a wizard successfully casts a spell within 12 inches of it, that spell is not unbound. The Maelstrom will attempt to steal the energy of the spell, make an additional unbinding roll for the spell. If the unbinding roll is successful, then the spell is unbound and add 1 energy point to the model. In addition, 1 energy point is allocated to this model for each unit that is destroyed within 6 inches of it. At the end of each battle round, roll a die for each Malevolent Maelstrom and add the number of energy points allocated to that model to the roll. On a 7 or more, the Maelstrom explodes. Each unit within 3d6 inches of the model that explodes suffers D3 mortal wounds, and the model that exploded is dispelled.
I love it. Love it.
Like, I mean, this is like the anti-magic one. Like, you just throw this at your opponent, it's like, come on, bitch.
This is one for the portal, I think. If you ask me, this is one for the portal.
Yeah, you kick this through the portal in Zinch's face and just be like, what now?
Yep. I'm still going to try and unbind, and if I fail, I have a second chance. And it's going to blow up in your face.
Yep.
So I wanted to touch on something that you said at the beginning, which I looked at quickly. I think you mentioned that in match play, you can only take one of each malign sorcery unit. But I think you can take multiples if you have models.
That's interesting.
I think you can. I was looking for it, but I'll have to get back in the notes once I do more homework on that. But I think you can take multiples. I'm not saying I was going to take 5 of these, but I would.
Yeah.
Yes. Quick. Yeah, I think I may have.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the pitch battle profiles again, and it doesn't say that they're unique. It doesn't say anything about you can only have one.
Yeah, and I think in the core rulebook, or maybe in the Malign Sorcerer's book, I vaguely recall reading that as long as you have models, you can throw. You can throw these spells out there,
which is interesting.
I could be wrong.
And if you're battling in the realm of death, you just get to add an extra energy point to this at the start of each battle round.
Watch it explode.
Yeah. Like, this is just like a weird wild card.
Yep. I love it. It's my favorite. Chromatic Cogs in this.
Yeah. I don't know how much play this is going to get, but it's going to be freaking hilarious when somebody just rolls up against like Tzeentch or Nagash and throws this in their face and says, "What now?"
I did it with Night Goblins the other day, and it was shutting Arkin the Black down. I mean, he ended up like dispelling it with a Necromancer or something like that, but it was shutting stuff down. It was awesome. And the Night Goblin,
like, everything getting an extra unbind attempt is like dumb.
It is dumb. I love it.
Yeah, but if you're playing against like dwarves, this does literally nothing.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's only 20 points though, so you're not really spending a lot to do that. All right, Quicksilver Swords. This is another 20-pointer. So casting value of 6. Set it up within 10 inches of the caster. It moves 8 inches and can fly. After it moves, you pick one unit within 6 inches, roll 12 dice. It suffers 1 mortal wound for each 6-up. And if the unit being rolled for is chaos, it suffers 1 mortal wound for each 5-up instead of 6. I will say my experience with this so far was I cast it, and it did nothing. I rolled 12 dice and got no 6s. So my mouth is immediately soured to this endless spell.
It seems like pretty good for 20 points, but yeah, I guess if you're rolling like I do with the green orc dice, it's not going to do anything for you.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, the fact that it has a decent range, so it's just like this thing that's kind of flying out there, and it's going to screw with your opponent, but the fact that this also says after this model has moved, you can pick one unit within 6 inches and roll 12 dice. That means if your opponent gets control of this and moves it, and it's like just in their zone and there's no enemy models around for them to hit with it, they can just choose to not do this.
Exactly.
So not that good. Funny, decent against chaos, I guess.
yeah, against chaos. 20 points if I don't have everything else I want already, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
if you need
the thing is that like for 20 points, would you rather have Shackles?
I'd rather have Shackles every day.
Yeah. For 20 points, let's see what else. Oh, well, this, Shackles, and the Maelstrom are the only things that are 20 points. I mean, I think it's nice that they just threw in a random, like, just do damage spell for 20 points. I think this is going to end up in a lot of lists just because of that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm at 1980 and I've got a wizard. I might as well throw in something that can do damage at range.
Maybe once in a while.
Yeah, maybe a little bit once in a while. Yeah. There's just like too many ifs.
Yeah.
It's going to be hilarious when you just go Yahtzee and kill something big.
5-6. Yeah, it's very swingy, fun. 20 points. If you got it, take it. If you don't have else.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have, like, if you're not feeling the shackles and you've got 20 points, take this.
You need mortal wounds, yeah. So I just found the entry. It's on Endless Spells, page 53, lower left-hand corner. It just says if you don't have the model for an Endless spell, you can't cast it. So if you have 2 Bale Vortex models, you can cast them both, but you can't cast a third one if you don't have the model.
Interesting. Very interesting.
And you can't cast more than 1 Endless spell in the same turn with the same wizard, even if they are different.
Yeah, I mean, you can't cast, like, the rule of 1 on spells still applies, right? So you can't cast, like, you're casting the same spell more than once, so you would have to be on consecutive turns.
This just says a wizard can attempt to cast more than 1 Endless spell on the same turn. So you couldn't cast Purple Sun and Bale Vortex in the same turn.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's something that I have heard a lot of people say, like, oh, I am going to do this, and then this endless spell, and this endless spell, and this endless spell, and that apparently doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, it's something new. I think we all overlooked little things like that. And there was something niggling in the back of my head. I said I had read it, but I hadn't read it multiple times. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah. All right, so the Suffocating Gravetide, casting value of 6. Gets set up wholly within 4 inches of the caster. And a Suffocating Gravetide is a predatory endless spell. It moves 8 inches and can fly. When this model is moved, each unit that it passes across suffers D3 mortal wounds. In addition, subtract 1 from the bravery characteristic of each unit that has any models that it passed across until the end of the battle round. When a missile weapon targets a unit that has all of its models within 1 inch of this model, the target unit receives a benefit of cover from the attacking unit. It's closer to the model than the target unit. And it moves 12 inches in the realm of death instead of 8. I think, like, the immediate problem that I see with this is that this has to be set up wholly within 4 inches of your caster. With the size of this model, that is, like, right next to your caster, or else it doesn't fit in the bubble.
Yeah, this thing is huge.
Yeah. You know, like the Prismatic Palisade, like, this can kind of be a bit of a roadblock, but it's a predatory spell, so your opponent is potentially moving it around.
Yep. I think it's just.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I feel like it's going to be really difficult to get this to do anything.
Yeah.
You
know what? I think we may. I don't know. I just have this feeling that we're going to see a lot of bravery bombs become a thing. And I think this might become a thing later on in the meta, especially after I think Slanesh comes out. But because you can't make units immune to battle shock from hero phase to hero phase.
Yeah. Yeah, I think battle shock is going to be a much bigger factor in the game now, and the bravery is going to matter a lot more than it previously did.
Yep.
But I think the big problem is going to be, like, this has to pass across enemy models, and then it has to land. And it's fairly large, and it only moves 8 inches. I just have this feeling that like you're going to be getting into a lot of situations where it doesn't have enough movement to actually pass across an enemy unit. You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
I have a feeling like this is just going to be like this big annoying thing. And you're going to kick it out there, and your opponent's going to get control of it and move it out of the way and just go do their thing. I mean, it almost makes more sense to use this defensively, to use, like, give your guys a cover bonus. Yeah, I don't know.
Totally meh.
Yeah, pretty meh. Pretty close to the worst of these. Not as bad as the Life Swarm, but still not good. Still not good. And 30 points for this little gem. Definitely overcosted. Ravenex Gnashing Jaws. One of the coolest models out of this for sure. Casting value of 8. So that pretty much prices it out of a lot of armies. You set it up wholly within 6 inches of the caster. It's predatory, moves 12 and can fly. After it's moved, each unit that has models that it passed across and each other unit that is within 1 inch of it at the end of its move suffers D3 mortal wounds. In addition, subtract 1 to bravery for each unit that it had models that it passed across until the end of the battle round. If you are in the realm of beasts, it moves D6 plus 12 instead of 12. This feels like it should just have Iron Jaws in its keywords.
Oh yeah. Yep, definitely.
Right. And being set up within 6 inches of the caster, and it moves 12 inches. I mean, if you cast this top of turn 1, like, this might not even get to your opponent.
Yeah, that's exactly another nominee for the portal.
Yeah, this kind of needs to go through the portal. Otherwise, it's not gonna get there. And then even with the portal, like, it just pops out on the other side of the portal now with the FAQ on that. Right. So like it moves into the portal and then pops out on the other side and stops. It's not that it goes through the portal and then moves. So
you still have to set it up wholly within 6 inches of the caster, so you can just pop it through.
Yeah. And this guy's 40 points. Super cool model though. Yeah. It's gonna do some crazy stuff once it's on the board. And with a casting value of 8, the interesting thing here is that, like, if you're running an army that can cast this reliably, like, you know, like a weird knob shaman.
Yep.
As, like, you know, the example of the model that is going to be casting this 90% of the time. That casting value of 8 means that this thing is really hard to dispel. So you're just going to have this thing marauding around the board for the whole game most of the time. Because to dispel it, you have to beat an 8.
Yeah. It's tough to cast, tough to dispel, does a lot of damage. Probably a second turn casting, or let your opponent come to you casting.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not sure. Like, I feel like the home is in Iron Jaws. And I'm not sure where else. I mean, maybe Nagash would use it. Maybe Zinch. Not too many other real options there, though. Yeah. But this should just be like Gorka Morka's Gnashing Jaws. All right, so what do we have next? The Burning Head. Casting value of 7. Gets set up within 3 inches of the caster. It moves 9 and can fly. After it's moved, each unit that has models that it passed across, and each unit within 1 inch of it at the end of its move suffers D3 mortal wounds. Then re-roll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by units while they are wholly within 9 inches of it. So this is a weird one that it's doing damage to stuff and then buffing them.
Yeah, I think it's one I glossed over and meh.
And if you are in the realm of fire, add 1 to the number of mortal wounds inflicted by the Flaming Skull ability. How many points is this bad boy? This is 40 points. I think this might be more interesting as this roving reroll hit rolls of 1 that you can occasionally do some mortal wounds with. But I don't know. Like, I feel like this is just like so unreliable, and the math on re-rolling hits of 1 is just like not good.
Yeah.
It's not 40 points worth of a buff. I'll put it that way. And the fact that it's going to potentially roll across your own guys and do damage. It's only doing D3 to each thing that it passes across. It's moving 9. It has to be set up within 3 inches of the caster, and it casts on a 7. Like, I feel like this is just like there is just a lot of barriers to this ever really doing anything that effective to your opponent.
Yep.
And then if you use it offensively, then you're buffing your opponent's stuff after, and that's not good. So this, I think, kind of goes in the crap pile.
Yep, that's where I put it. Cool model, good terrain piece, basing piece.
Yeah, might just get converted into something. Uses basing material. Not a good spell. The Ether Void Pendulum. This got a clarification, and I think there could be some discussion around the clarification because I think the way some people are reading it may be wrong. So it summons on a 6, and it is 40 points. Set it up wholly within 6 inches of the caster so that it points lengthwise in the direction you wish it to move. Pendulum is a predatory endless spell. It moves up to 8 inches and can fly. When it's set up, player immediately makes a move with it. After the model has moved, each unit that it has passed across and each unit that is within 1 inch of it at the end of the move suffers D6 mortal wounds.
Lots of mortal wounds. Hard to control.
Yep. And when it moves, it has to move in a straight line, like along its like lengthwise axis. So the designer's commentary on this was that it always moves in one direction. And I think the way people are reading that is wrong. Because the way I've heard everybody read it is, oh, you pick a direction and it can like only move in that one direction. And I think what it's saying is, I think what they're trying to get at is when it moves, it can only move in one direction in that turn. Like it can't like stop and reverse in one movement phase. But in a successive movement phase, it can move in the other direction. I think that's what they're trying to get at and just worded it poorly.
I read it the other way.
Yeah, but think about it. Like, there's nothing on here that says what happens when you get to the edge of the board and can't move it.
There's rules that say once they move to get to the board edge, they are dispelled.
It's doing D6 mortal wounds, so that's kind of a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot of mortal wounds. It is. I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
Yeah. It's 40 points. It's I don't know. It's interesting. Also, the interesting thing to note here is that there's no buff for being in any particular realm for this.
Yeah. I don't know about this. It depends on what army you're playing. If you're playing a gun line, this is great.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're going to get in its way.
Yeah. Yeah, you might accidentally kill yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let me just read the paragraph I was just reading completely. Maybe I'm just losing my mind.
Okay.
Okay, so back to the endless spells. Still the same page, 53, same paragraph. Just going to read it and make sure that I'm not missing something here. I think I'm missing something. In order to attempt to cast an endless spell, you must have a model for the spell available that is not already on the battlefield. That is not already on the battlefield. That is, okay, so there it is right there. So it's weird that it says, for example, if you have 2 Bale and Vortex models in your collection and they are both on the battlefield. So right there, am I crazy, or does it seem like it's contradicting itself immediately?
No, it's saying that if you have 2 Bale and Vortex models in your collection, they're both on the battlefield. You cannot attempt to cast a third.
Right. But listen to this first line again. In order to attempt to cast an endless spell, you must have a model for the spell available that is not already on the battlefield. So if you can't cast an endless spell, you must have a model for the spell that is not already on the battlefield. So there shouldn't be
a spell and have it not be on the battlefield. This also like completely like discount like this shouldn't have needed like that FAQ clarification that like stuff that can steal opponent's spells can
that was
like that shouldn't have needed an FAQ. That should have been pretty intuitive from this rule that like you didn't pay the points for it. Like this is worded for open play. And anytime I feel like in an open play rule set, it says in your collection.
Yeah, it's open
play. Match play, it should read in your list.
But I didn't see it said that in the pitch battle book either. Oh, that's weird. We'll have to come back to that, I guess. So I looked in the general's handbook and I didn't see anything about that either.
Yeah. But so the verdict on the pendulum, not that exciting.
Nope.
I think the big thing is that this moves along an axis, and whether or not it's swinging both ways. If it's just moving in one direction, it's even easier. But like, as soon as this hits the battlefield, like this is super easy to avoid.
Yeah.
Like you have to get stuck to get hit by this,
or be slow because it doesn't move that fast.
Yep. So next up, the Purple Sun. This is the last one. Purple Sun of crap.
Yep, I don't like it. Used it. Garbage.
Yeah, casting value of 8, immediately garbage. Set up within 6 inches of the caster and moves 9 inches. Also garbage. After the model is moved, each model that it passed across and each other unit within 1 inch of it at the end of its move is subject to the baleful energies. Each unit is subject to the baleful energies. Roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in that unit. For each 6 up, 1 model in that unit is slain. If the unit has a wounds characteristic of 6 or more, it suffers 2d6 mortal wounds instead.
2d6 mortal wounds part is nice, but you're looking for 6s. You're fishing for 6s.
Yeah.
I guess it's okay if you're going against a horde, but then again, you paid 100 points to remove how many models from a horde?
Yeah, I don't. And it's not going to trigger Battle Shock.
Nope.
When it's being done in, like, after its initial move, which it's probably not going to hit anything with its initial move. So if it ever rolls over your opponent, it's going to probably happen, like, outside of a phase where Battle Shock is a thing. So you're not going to be sniping off a horde with this. So yeah, I mean, I'm just and then you subtract 1 from the bravery characteristics of all units while they're within 6 inches of this model. Yep. Okay. Not worth 100 points at all. Like, the only way this is even remotely good is kick it through a spell portal.
Yep. That's what I did and still didn't do anything.
Yeah. And this suffers from the same problem that you have with the swords, right? Like, you're rolling a pile of dice and looking for 6s.
Mm-hmm.
And
maybe not even rolling a pile of dice, because if you roll over a hero with this, you're rolling 1.
Yes. Now, let me just make a point with this. This, compared to the swords, you have a unit of 10 enemy models that have 1 wound each. You run the purple sun over them. You run the swords over them. The swords will likely kill more of them.
Yep.
And it's 80 points less. And casts on a 6.
Yeah, not a value.
Like, this is a value for, like if you fly this over, like, a unit of brutes, this is good value.
Yeah, I would not like to see that. Brutes? Nope.
Yeah, or Blight Kings, or, big multi-wound models. Your hordes of elite infantry, this is gonna do a number on. But against anything that has a wounds characteristic of 1, like, you're probably better off with the swords.
Yep.
And you don't have to, like, pass across or end within 1 inch with the swords. They can be 6 inches away. So you're more likely to actually get them into a thing.
I would like to see these near my beloved Storm Vermin.
Yeah.
So 100 points and
yeah, I mean, I think this is definitely overcosted. Like, maybe at 60, this would be okay. But I mean, this is banking on, like, hordes of, like, elite infantry, and that's just not necessarily going to happen.
I'd rather have my 2 command points instead.
Yep. Yeah, it's weird that now, like, everything comes down to, like, do I want this or that point value in command points?
Yep.
I think that's like the psychology of that, I think, is worth its own video.
I was looking at I've been going over the thricefold befoulment a lot.
Yep.
And that's something I've been just like, do I need to, should I drop that Glock in, or should I drop something else to get some more command points going? I don't know.
Yeah. So I guess, sort of to recap, Umbral Spell Portal, super good.
Yep.
Cogs, conditionally good.
I think super good, but
super good in a lot of lists. But the casting value of 7 makes it very difficult for anybody that can't cast it with buffed casting.
Yeah. Moon Clan had no problems.
Yep. Well, they have they're high on mushrooms all the time, so they can cast whatever they want.
But it's funny. My first round, I had 5. I think I had 5 shamans, and I rolled 2 1s. So if they roll a 1 to use their mushrooms, they can't do anything. They just sit there. I was like, "What? This is how it's going to be, dice." I don't normally like to blame dice on poor performance, but those dice are something else.
Yeah.
Action.
So the Bale Vortex, I think, still has a place, especially because it's 40 points. It's going to slip into a lot of armies that just happen to have an extra 40 points laying around.
Yep, I like it a lot.
Yeah, to just make a wizard better. I think that's like where a lot of these endless spells honestly fit in. Like the ones that are like 60 points, I think are ones that you kind of have to build your list with them in mind. But if you're under 60, like they're just sort of things that can slip in when you have slack in your list.
Mm-hmm.
Soul Snare Shackles, I mean, they're 20 points and they're super good.
Super good. Yep.
These are just going to end up in my list all the time. Just because I got an extra 20 points and debuffing your opponent is really good. Like that is the lesson of playing Nurgle. Is like it is like really stupid good to debuff your opponent. It is often better to debuff your opponent than to buff yourself. And that should be another Math Hammer video. But that is very unfortunately true, and that is why Rend is so powerful, because you're debuffing your opponent. Prismatic Palisade. After some debate, this is probably way better than anybody is really realizing it is.
Yep, changed my mind. I like it. Free terrain.
I mean, 30 points, does some funky stuff. Makes your opponent have to do some weird things.
Or waste a spell to dispel it, and then maybe you just cast it somewhere else. You need it instead.
Yeah. It's like, oh, here's a wall. Oh, you got rid of that wall? Oh, here's another wall.
Yep.
Geminids. This is like on top of the pile, I think. This is like one of the best. Like this, the Spell Portal, Cogs, I think are like the three best.
My favorite, it's still the Malevolent Maelstrom. I like that one a lot. I think because it causes that Skaven trouble.
Yes. I could see Skaven running that like all day. But I think this is going to end up in a lot of lists as just like a strong contender. Like, and it's also probably like the best do damage to your opponent endless spell.
Yep.
So I think it's
awesome damage.
Yep. It is not at all like a thing that, yeah. The casting value on a 7, I think, is a little bit of a challenge, but like anybody that can, I think universally, basically all of these endless spells are way, way better for armies that are already good at magic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, like those casting values just don't matter when, you know, you have goblins eating mushrooms and Nagash being crazy and a great unclean one stabbing himself and Tzeentch doing Tzeentchy things. Like when the casting value doesn't matter, these are outrageous. When you are a crappy wizard that can get buffed, then these are a challenge. Emerald Life Swarm, garbage. Malevolent Maelstrom, hilarious.
Love it.
Yeah. And you are the person that will take this to a tournament and make this blow up in your opponent's face every game and take out ridiculous amounts of their army.
Yep.
That's the kind of person you are.
And I just, Vince just pointed out and found the spot in the General's Handbook. It's under Pitch Battles, page 48. Buried in there, it says, endless spells have a pitch battle profiles and points cost. By paying the spell's points cost, all wizards in the player's army know that endless spell, and the player can use and reuse one endless spell model of the appropriate type in the battle. A player cannot take the same endless spell model more than once for their army, but can take any number of different endless spells. Bam, there it is. So you cannot take 2 Bale Vortex models.
Yes.
But it's really hard to find. Thanks, Vince.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that all of this is across like multiple books now is getting complicated.
Yeah.
Quicksilver Swords. I think this is just going to be one of the things that's commonly jammed when you get an extra 20 points.
We've already taken the Shackles.
Yeah, and you've already taken the shackles. Like you had 40 and you wanted shackles, and then you took the swords.
Yep.
Suffocating Gravetide. I am confused at how this will ever do anything.
Well, thank you.
Like again, this is one that's just like it has to go through the spell portal, or it's.
And I have to say again, I feel like Bravery Bomb might be a thing. Maybe stacking all these different bravery debuffs might be just filthy, but we don't know. We don't know that yet.
Gnashing Jaws. Maybe interesting. I think the big problem that I think it has is actually getting it to your opponent. So I think this is going to be. Well, here's a question. Again, this is like obviously the spell that Iron Jaws are going to use, right?
Yep.
So,
or maybe I'll make one that looks like a big rat trap and use it with Skaven.
what if they have the Iron Jaws have abilities that let them do a move in the hero phase, right?
Yep.
So if you move your wizard with that,
Yep.
then you get them up closer to your opponent. Then you can cast this. So maybe that's how you use it?
Yeah, it's not something to build a strategy around, but it's definitely a neat tactic to have in your back pocket if it works.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think this is like Orky and spell portal fodder.
Yep. You plan on it for round 2.
Yep. Yeah. And man, but when this thing does pop through, like moving 12 inches, if you're within, if your caster is close to enemy units, flying over 12 inches worth of stuff can do damage to a lot of units.
Yep.
So that's potentially really funny. Burning Head, just a confusion. Like,
Yep.
I think that's just not going to see the table much. Aether Void Pendulum, I mean, too easy to avoid.
Yeah, it depends on.
I think if you can drop this, like this is all about like the turn that it gets cast. And if you can cast it and put it through stuff that is vulnerable and roll a bunch of d6s, then it's really good. Or if you can conveniently place a spell portal and then just drop it on the other side and do like a d6 bomb.
Yeah.
I think the point is like the spell portal is still absurdly good, even when you can only put one thing through it a turn. It's all about which thing you put through it, guys.
Foot of Gork.
Yeah. Foot of Gork. Just gonna keep stomping your face in.
Yep. Fun when it happens.
Yeah. I've had somebody do it to me and had it like stomp like 4 times. It sucked.
I played somebody, I got it to go like 6 or 7 times. I almost flipped the table. It was so crazy. Exciting.
And Purple Sun, like, just not worth 100 points.
Yeah.
And has a lot of occasions when the Quicksilver swords are going to be better, which is really sad. So, yeah. Did you have anything else to add on these? Or should we wrap this up?
Got it. I think we wrapped up. I think it's time to wrap it up. Thank you, Vince, for your help with that rule we were looking for.
Yeah. Proving once again that we really cannot do anything without Vince's assistance.
Yep.
It's basically how this goes.
That has to come in, save us again.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think these are going to get used a lot. I think they're priced in a way that a lot of them are just like, they're just going to get jammed in a list because you had extra points.
Yep.
And I think people, instead of like jimmying around stuff in their list to try and get closer to like the 2000, like they're just going to jam endless spells in instead.
Yep.
I think that's going to be like the cognitive bias that everybody is going to be running with. It's like, oh, I don't need to screw around with my list. I've got endless spells I can shove in here.
Yep. And I don't know. For me, the first 20 points that are left over, I'm going for Malevolent Maelstrom. That's gonna be mine, and then maybe Soul. Then Soul Snare Shackles.
Yeah, and I think if you've got 40, like it's probably Geminids every time if you are not seeking to make friends. Otherwise, then it's multiple things probably. Maybe a Bale and Vortex.
Yeah, it was fun taking the first game just to try them all out.
Yeah.
5 casters and all the endless spells. It was just kind of fun to throw them all out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think my first game with them, I think I took 3 different endless spells and cast 2 of them. Yeah, the spell portal is really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anywho, I think that's about it for now, guys. It's been fun. If anybody has any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. And we will be signing off. We will see you all later.